Now, I'm really excited about today's YouTube video, and the reason is because it is my single most requested YouTube video of all time. Now, if you don't know by now, my name's Gabby. I'm a professional artist. I've been a professional artist for a long time, and when I say professional, I mean I was Hollywood, I was industry, I did CalArts, I did Disney, I did the whole thing. And a lot of young people ask me, can I please see your art when you were X age? Can we get a timeline of your art through the years? But I need you to know that when you're asking me to see my art, a lot of the times what you're really asking me is these 3 questions. Number 1, am I on the right track? Number 2, will I ever be as good as you? And number 3, is it possible that I can make it too? The answer to that, yes, yes, and yes. But we'll talk about it more at the end of the video, because I know that if you clicked on this for that reason, then that's what you really need to hear. So stay, okay? But in the meantime, y'all don't want to hear me, you just want to dance. And I never gatekeep anything from you. Here are the 8 stages of life that I will take you through. I've also included my age just in case that's something that you needed to see. Let's jump in. I need you to come with me to my computer. This is the oldest art that I have of mine. I think I'm 11 or 12 in this photo. This is me now. Here's one thing for sure. I was always a comics artist. I'm pretty sure I'm always going to be a comics artist. As we move through these pictures, you're going to see mostly comics. Now, I'm not going to read them out loud because I tried that. The video was like 3 hours long, so you can pause and read them. I will spoil for you. They are really bad to start, but that's okay. I was learning. And then as we go on, they get better and better. There are things that I'll be working on throughout this process. One of them is humor. I get that pretty quickly. Number 2, sentimentality. That takes a lot longer for me. That's a much harder skill, but I get that eventually too. So you'll see a lot of missteps if you pause and read my comics. Another thing to note, I very distinctly remember me being very bad at art, and I thought I was going to get up here today and show you how bad my art was. It turns out that's not the truth, Ellen. I was never bad at art. I was only average and then good. Here's how that happened. I was not the best artist in class. I was very far from it. The best artist in class when I was a kid named Justin Chang, who drew mostly airplanes and mechanical devices and stuff. Justin Chang was the best artist until 3rd or 4th grade, and by the 5th grade he stopped drawing. By the time we graduated middle school, I was the best artist in class. And I want you to know that that didn't happen from me actually being the best. It happened because Justin Chang stopped drawing. So if you want to be the best artist, you just have to love it enough that you don't stop. There's a couple of things that we're going to be marking in this video. They are the improvement of my comics and the improvement of my fan art of, first, a series of unfortunate events, and second, Peach and Bowser, which I guess was my number 1 fandom. You'll see, we'll get there. Section 1 of this video is called Middle School and High School. Here's the first middle school piece that I have. I made this in the 7th grade. I'm 12 years old, and something that you need to know, I'm not going to stop and read it to you, but these lyrics, some of them are real and some of them I made up because I wanted it to sound like I listened to obscure bands. Here's my first OC, Garbage Locks, as in Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. This is Goldilocks' daughter. And I kept going with this character. And I won't lie to you, the story was really good. This is fan art of Owl City before he got popular. And I don't say that to be like, I knew him before, but I did. He was on MySpace. I made this fan art for him and he posted it on his official MySpace page. His name was Adam. He was really nice. Fan art of a girl who was my friend at the time and the boy she had a crush on. So this is my freshman year or sophomore year of high school. This is definitely my sophomore year of high school. Here's me and all of my friends. If I were to critique this piece, there's not much to critique. If somebody showed this to me, I would be like, keep going. You clearly have a passion for it, but it's not at the place where it would benefit from critique. When I see art like this, all I can say is keep going, because clearly you like it. And the one little critique, make sure the faces are separated out because you can barely see these guys. This is good. If somebody showed this to me, I'd be like, wow, you got it. You should be a professional artist. And I see why my teachers at the time told me I should pursue art. I was not pursuing art. It was just a little thing I did. I loved it. And I identified as an artist kid, but I did not think it was going to be my life. I dreamed that it would, but I was always taught that you should get a stable job and do art on the side, so that's what I thought it would be. If a kid showed this to me, I was 15 when I made this, I would say, 1, you're probably gay. 2, you can do this. You can definitely be an artist. Just keep going, you're on the right path. This I included to show you that though I could make this at 15 years old, I was also making this at 15 years old. So you see there's a lot of frustration here. Couldn't get the faces right. I didn't know how to draw a background. I didn't know how to stage a shot. The perspective is all off. I abandoned all of these because I had the idea that I was going to be able to execute it well, and I couldn't execute my vision. That's really common, especially at this stage of art making. It's common to not be able to execute your vision. It's okay to get frustrated and start again. The solution to that is drawing more, learning and failing more, making more attempts, and I would go on to do that. This is my first comic that was published in the high school newspaper. You can read it if you want to. The problem that I had at this time was thinking that every panel had to have words in it, so there's a lot of unnecessary words. The other thing that I would say, this is a funny comic. It needs better staging for it to really hit, and I would add more panels also. But good. Back to Garbage Locks and the Three Bears. I told you I really went far with this shit. I scripted the whole thing, and I'm telling you it was a good story. Here's a page of Garbage Locks. You can already see my paneling has gotten a lot better from just a couple years ago. I must have made this, I was 15, maybe 15 and a half, 16. And again, here's where I started in the 7th grade. A lot of this is influenced by the webcomics I was reading at the time. This was at the height of webcomic culture, so my panels are getting better. Art from the same time period, it's cute. I was clearly learning to soft shade instead of cell shade. Fine. Another page of Garbage Locks. Already the perspective is starting to look a little bit better. That's what I mean, is just keep trying and failing. It's fine. This is gender bent art of me and my high school best friend. There's a lot of gender bent art in my work. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not going to say anything about it. We're not going to address it. I'm just going to say, this is me if I was a boy. And this is my best friend if he was a girl. If you're wondering, it says Gabby Gregu. And I did own these shoes. I will scour the internet for a picture. These are the Frankenstein Nike Dunks. They were very, very shiny. I wore them for like 3 years. Another comic that was not published in the newspaper, but I think this one is way better than the last one. I really like this one. Pause and read it, it's funny. I want to point out that this is before Adventure Time came out, so this isn't like I'm copying that style. I just didn't know anatomy, and this was a really easy solution. From this comic, you will learn about me that 1, I went to Catholic school, 2, I made a lot of fan art about Jesus. I think we can leave it at that. I mean, I was working through some shit. This is funny though. It's funny. You know what's my favorite part is right here. Jesus is like, can we go fishing, Dad? Dad's too busy to go fishing and Jesus is disappointed. I think that's very funny. Sorry to any Christians out there. I was one of you, so you can't get mad at me. I was in the Harry Potter fandom. I did make some comics for the Harry Potter fandom. This one and the next one got very popular online. This one got me a lot of views and some following. This was my first time ever having a following online. It was addictive. This is good. I'm 16 and a half when I made this one. This is what I mean when I said I thought I was going to show you bad art. There's really not much bad art. If a 16-year-old kid came up to me and showed me this art, I'd be like, apply now, apply to a job. You might get it. You never know. I was really into paper texture at this time. This is some more paper texture. There was a lot of pirates and princesses in my high school years. The thing I'm most impressed with this art is the fact that I knew how to draw a profile correctly. I'm 17 when I made this. This anatomy is pretty solid. That's a good grasp of anatomy. I explained to you at the beginning of the video that it would take a while for me to master sentimentality. This is supposed to be an emotional piece about how this guy doesn't fit in. I didn't nail it. What I did nail though, this is a San Francisco street, and that does look like a San Francisco street. Perspective is getting better. I was definitely 17 when I made this. This is my pirate OC who is just me. It's a self-insert. This is his pirate called Carlos. Carlos, you're my only friend. And then Carlos shits on him. That's very funny. That's very, very funny. I wanted to be a pirate really bad. I ended up going to school for marine biology because I wanted to be a pirate so bad. Didn't work out for me. This is one of the last pieces that I made in high school. I remember distinctly attempting to experiment with perspective, and I think it's a really good experiment. The one thing that's off is this back here. This doesn't follow any perspective lines, but this all does. This does. This is good. I mean, this window should be pointing away. We don't have to discuss all of that. What I can say is that this basic floor thing, that's good. That's good. I'm still trying to do soft shading, but there's a little bit of cell shading in there. Hey, I got no qualms with this one. This is after high school graduation. So now we're moving into the second phase, which is called university. I went to university for marine biology because I wanted to be a pirate so bad. I went to the first class and they had me chart a wave of trigonometry. And I said, you know what? As a matter of fact, this is not for me. I switched my major to English literature, went researching online and said, all of my teachers were right about me. I should be an artist. I looked up who did Finding Nemo, and Who Did the Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. It ended up being Brad Baird, Thurip Van Orman, and both of them went to CalArts, so I decided I was going to go to CalArts. So when I say university, this is really a mini lock-in. I was going to school nonstop. I was taking an absurd amount of course credits, but in the little spare time that I had, I was just grinding art. So this is that phase of my life. Here's style experimentation. Always like to see that. More comics. Just a simple 4-panel. This one's cute. Remember I said my Peach and Bowser fan art? Check this out. It's lesbian Peach and Bowser. It's lesbian Peach and Gajinka Bowser. It's lesbian Peach and Gajinka Bowser. And actually, this backpack that was a turtle shell, I really fucking hit on something with this. This Jock Butch Bowser with turtle shell backpack. I would go on to take that as my canonical Bowser interpretation for the rest of my life. To this day, that's how I draw Bowser. Why? Because it was hard to draw a dragon. Here's a comic that I made about sweepies, like chimney sweeps. It's cute. At this time, I was doing tons of idea generation. I did not finish a single project. I was in danger of becoming what's called an ideas guy. You never want to be an ideas guy. If I could give you one piece of advice, it's finish your projects, because an ideas guy is the worst thing that you could be. That's a guy who has all kinds of ideas and nothing to show for it, because what he tries to do is tell other people what to do. And one thing about artists, we have our own ideas. So finish your project so you never become an ideas guy. This is cute. I was just trying to come up with new storylines all the time. This, can we get like a counter? I want a counter. How many times has it been that I've drawn something gay without knowing it? This, I didn't know trans people existed at this time. Somehow, always drawing trans characters. This is drawing of my sister. It's very accurate. I won't show you a picture of her, but that's what she looks like. This is traditional art. It's charcoal in a moleskin notebook. I would start experimenting with traditional art at this time. This is good. I don't know. It's just good. Note these trees, because I just turned 18 here, and by the time I turn 20, I will figure out how to draw trees. At this point, I hadn't done any grinding on backgrounds or anything like that. Here are the comics I was making at the time. This is just a summer in San Francisco. Another comic. This one is almost funny. The situation is funny. It's not funny somehow, but don't worry. I would learn it later. Same thing here. It's cute. It's a little funny. You gotta dial it in. This one, I'm amazed by, because I posted this one publicly, and that's my roommate. She followed me. That looks like her. How did I post that? I was not always a good guy, okay? Now, already we're at the period called the Great Lock-In. The reason that it's called the Great Lock-In is because I did succeed in graduating from college at age 19, and I thought in my head, I have to get to CalArts now. I've wasted too much time. We'll get into that at the end of the video. I thought that I had wasted too much time. By the time I graduated, I was going to be 25. I was going to be old and washed up and dead, almost dead. So I said, I have to lock in and get into this school. My art was not good enough to get into CalArts. It was not there. So I said, with this 1 year that I have, all of my friends are still in school. I'm alone in this city. The city is empty. I have no one to hang out with. I moved in with my grandma, and all I did from morning until night was draw. I became known as the kid with the sketchbook, and I found that flattering because that's who I was trying to be. And so for this entire year, from like 8 in the morning until 8 at night, I would draw. Sometimes I draw until like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I want you to know that this marks a huge improvement in my art. I did end up getting into CalArts on the first try, and it's because I made drawing my full-time job. It's all I thought about. It's all I did. I was just constantly reading theory and trying to apply it myself. This is the first time that I would start to learn that quantity makes quality. I didn't know that before. Turns out, if you practice a skill, you get better at the skill. This is my first time learning that. This period lasts for less than a year. 10 months. So here's the start. This is my OCs. We're going to come back and check on these OCs for a long time. Their names are Eleanor, right here, this one, and Devin, right here, this one. This drawing is from when I was 18 years old. Here's a redesign that I did the next year. I was in a phase, okay? Let's not talk about it. Another one, this is just a redesign. I added a skateboard for her. I made her a little bit like more edgy and punk. I was working through some shit. This is a self-portrait of me. Here's what I look like. It's not too far off. It's a little dark, a little green. I started doing portraits of my friends for free, just for practice. This is Jughead Jones. We're also going to check in with the Archie comics. I told you there was a lot of fan art on here. Here is a serious piece of advice. Yes, it's funny that I did fan art. A serious piece of advice. Fan art and OCs will take you so fucking far. It will take you so far, because as long as you care about something enough to draw it over and over and over again, you will continue to draw. And if you continue to draw, you will continue to improve. So the fact that I was doing just Archie comics at this time, don't laugh, because it got me there. Jughead. Here's the rest of the Archie Comics cast. I will let you know this is pre-Riverdale. I was just obsessed with the actual Archie comics, the ones that you got in the grocery store. Yeah. Study of an artist that I liked at the time called Color Pulp. Here are some hand studies of mine. You can see my draftsmanship is starting to get better, pen control a little better. Those are the trees. Remember I told you to mark the trees? Here go the trees. These are studies of Bill Watterson's trees, and also an artist called Nedroid who did a webcomic called Bear Tato. He did really good trees. Bill Watterson did really good trees. These are my tree studies. Jughead, Betty. And what of it? That's me as a kid. Here's my first really big improvement that I noticed. From January to February, all of a sudden, I was getting this like round shape, perspective in the legs. The shoes are kind of off, but there's a big difference here. 1 month of studying every day, 18 hours a day. I was working through something. This is the same character as this one. Here she is again. This is a simplified version of her. This is, again, another improvement sketch. This is 2 months of improvement. That's crazy. This is the first and only background drawing that I did at this time. I did one and I said, that's enough, I'm done. These are some gesture drawings from a website called Love Castle Pixel Lovely. You had to be there. If you know, you know. Peach and Bowser. What did I say? What did I say? Exactly. Put it on the screen. Put it on the screen. Okay? Lesbian Peach and Bowser to this trans mask, perhaps? Peach and Bowser? Who knows? A portrait. Check out the neck. It looks good. Check out the neck. The strokes are muddy. I'm not here to critique. That's good for a person who's just learning. But I will say I did not know what I was doing. So I was just trying. I would learn painting later, but I was pretty good at it to start. An animation of mine, I got really obsessed with Gogo Yubari from Kill Bill. And can you blame me? Here is my first attempts at squash and stretch. I was trying to learn the principles of animation on myself and practice them, because in my head I was like, CalArts, that's what they will be looking for, is stuff like that. So I started practicing on my own. More gesture drawings from Pixel Lovely. This is another background that I did from life. I hated it at the time. Now there's some charm. Something that I didn't know at the time is that there has to be less detail in the back and more detail as you get up front. It's messy, but these waves look great. That looks great. I was starting to experiment with color for the first time. Here's a color process shot. Looks good to me. I like this. I did this from imagination. I like the rim light. No qualms here. It's cute. More color. I like that. I mean, there can be things improved. Am I here to critique that? No, it's cute. Now, when I say for comics, funny is easier than emotional or sentimental for me. Watch this. It's top secret, super important boy stuff. You wouldn't understand. What color panties do you think Rainbow Dash wears? I love that. That's hilarious. And also, add one to the counter. Gogo Yubari. These are fucking great. Look at this hair. There's negative space here in the hair. You see how I would just not draw the edges of it? Yeah, I like that. Actually, I'm going to start incorporating that into my work. I do like to draw blood. This is where I figured that out. Yolandi Visser, an artist that I was listening to a lot at the time. I'm impressed with those shoes because I couldn't draw shoes before. Same characters a few months later. I didn't even bother coloring it, don't know why. But art is getting better for sure. Adding in little bits of character here and there. These are Doc Martens under a prom dress. I remember feeling really like, yeah. But to be fair, I was 19. Another OC, her name is Julie. She's Romeo's first girlfriend before Juliet. Girl that I just saw at a water park that I thought was really beautiful. Practicing perspective. These are the same characters, Eleanor and Devin. We'll check in with them later. Colors looking good. Perspective looking off, but it's a good attempt. This person should be way smaller. Like, he's, what, 8 feet tall? Anatomy. I'm starting to learn skeletal anatomy. All this stuff is really important. I didn't know that it was that important until I started looking into how to draw. This shit is really important. Another self-portrait. Marked improvement from the one that I had done just before. So the first one was January, and this one is September. This is Bunny, Graveyard Girl. These are really accurate. I just included those to show you how accurate they are. Here's a picture of her. Another animation. I showed this to a recruiter at a portfolio day in Atlanta, and he told me, like, why are you even applying? And I told him, I'm applying to art school. And he went, never mind, I'm sorry. I thought you were applying to jobs. If you're applying to art school, this is great. This is a graphic novel that I wrote and didn't finish because I was still an ideas guy at this time. Here's a life drawing that I did from a live model. My first time drawing a live model. It looks really good. No qualms. This is really flat. I didn't know how to not do flat. A person that I mentioned in this video would help me out with this at this time. Shout out to Adeline, because Janessa told me that you saw the first one. Thank you. Thank you. I owe you so much. These are just a couple of months apart. After Adeline's critique, I was able to take my art from this to this. This is the feeling that I wanted to give here, but I didn't know how to give it. That's what we call cinematics. You can do things with lighting, with posing, with structure, and with composition to give the feeling that you want to give. How you learn it is by watching the movies that you like best and taking notes where they are able to create the feelings that you're interested in creating. And by notes, I mean you make a little thumbnail of the movie. I did that with like 15 movies before I started to pick up on it and understand what was going on. So just so you know, I was drawing from morning till night. I would also throw on movies and make notes of the movies as I was going through them. This was a lot of work, but it paid off. Same thing here. This was a cave. Here's the same cave. Huge. Here I was trying storyboards for the first time. It's a good first attempt. Here are some more. Pause if you want to see them. This is my first old people I ever drew. Those are successful old people. I like that. I was scared of drawing old people before this. It tends to be really easy to draw one specific type of person. I don't know what that is for you, but as an artist, sometimes it's people who look like you, sometimes it's people who look like who you want to be, but it can be hard to branch out. Branch out. You're gonna have to at some point. Or don't if you don't want to. Kill a Kill, I was getting into that. Another self-portrait. This is January 2014. Can we get the one from 2013? So this is a year of progress between these two self-portraits. I'm telling you, 18 hours a day pays off. This is a witch Sona. That's a pretty good cat. Peach and Bowser. It's a little awkward. The legs are a little short. It's stylized nicely. Why are they mad at each other? I like the choice to make Toadstool a hat. That's cute. I was getting into ink, and ink would become a signature material of mine for many, many years. I like how I did this hair. This was a cool idea. Remember when I told you that I never did backgrounds? Here I was trying to force myself to do backgrounds. You need them, so I did a lot of them. And I started to get really good at them, because quantity makes quality. I especially like this one. And this one's cool. I especially like this one, because I know where this is, and this feels exactly like it. Peach and Bowser. Look, you're just as surprised as I am. I didn't know this about myself until I went back and looked at my old art. For some reason, they really had a hold on me. I didn't even know that. I really didn't know that about myself. But the thing that I like about this is that I am asking the right questions. I'm beginning to ask design questions. What time period did she come from? I'm beginning to look at the traditional dress of those time periods and start moving them into something that I might like, combining them into a new design. I think that design is ugly. I personally like this one the best. But the right questions are being asked. Peach and Bowser? They're fighting again. What's going on? I like that the hair is fire. That's cute. And I actually really do like these little itty bitty Butch Hartman style high heels. These little Powerpuff Girl style high heels. That's cute. I might steal that. Romeo and Julie. I told you about the OC Julie. That's Romeo. She wanted to be an astronaut. It was a good story. I didn't finish it. Surprise, surprise. A series of unfortunate events. Now here's the first time we start to see this fan art. We're going to check in with that throughout the time too. These are the twins, Duncan and Isadora. Can we get a... Okay, because Isadora is supposed to be a girl. And why do they? Interesting. Sunny, Violet, and Klaus, if you're familiar. If you're not, there's just 3 siblings. That squash and stretch? Yeah. So, there's some progress being made. That's me as going like this in a mirror. If you're looking to get better at facial expressions, get a mirror and put it on your desk, because you're just going to see it all the time, so it makes it really easy to draw silly faces. Boom, Ward Kimball. Okay? Trust me. Here's another comic. This one is very funny. So I figured it out around 19, 20 years old. That's very funny. I like that. I love this piece. I love this piece. I love it because I know exactly what it is and I captured the feeling perfectly. It was the very first time I ever got me and my best friend, put it on the screen. We went and got smoked out by a kid whose dad was a cop. At the end of the day, we had to go home, and both of us had strict Catholic parents, so we crawled up to the top of this big hill, and there was a huge wind storm, and we stood there like this, with our clothes flapping, trying to get all the smell out of us. Love it. Perfect. This is a kid I used to know. It looks exactly like him, so I'm learning caricature. Blood. What did I say? That's the same OC that I've been drawing from the beginning. Put her on the screen. Okay. She's gonna come back in a big way. Same OC. This was right before I went to CalArts, so this is the end of the phase called the Great Lock-In. I was accepted into the school by this point. Here I'm just experimenting with color off of Tumblr prompts. This is really good. Look at that hand. I don't even know if I could draw that now. That's great. Gogo Yubari. Her legs are a little short, but she's cute. Pretty. That's the same OC. I think I was really working out something about myself. This is the first appearance of a kid called Balt, who you will see later on in the video. This is my redesign of Count Olaf, if you're familiar. I'm experimenting here with hand-drawn panel lines. I don't like the look of it, but I do kind of like the look of it. I might try it again now. My art's getting scratchier. It has to get looser before it gets tighter. So I like that I'm getting wide with the strokes, because you can always tighten it up, but you can't get looser if you're too tight. Little painting, and I can tell exactly what happened. I saw an infographic, this one, that says yellow on the forehead, red in the mid face, and green in the below face. I'm trying stuff out. That's fine. These are the first pages of that graphic novel I didn't finish called Quand j'étais Gabrielle, When I Was Gabrielle. I lived in Paris for a year. I didn't have the best time in Paris. Here's the little teaser text at the beginning. This is me. It means, and that's also me. It would have been a good graphic novel, I just never finished it. And now it's been too long. Like, I don't want to make it anymore. So that's another reason to not be an ideas guy, is sometimes you have a really good idea that feels so good to you. That won't feel that way in 5 years, in 10 years. Make it now. Even if you make it poorly, just make it now, because then you have a record of it. But again, I'm biased. What can I say? My name on everything is Memoir Comics. So make it quickly before you lose interest in it. Same OC. There's my first self-portrait that I did at CalArts. I remember setting up the lighting for this and doing it in my dorm. After this, we had orientation. I had to like speed through it, which is why it's not finished. This looks good. Here's how I look. That looks good. I like that. I should do more of these. My first animation at CalArts compared to the last animation I did not at CalArts. Improvement immediately. And here's the thing. Now we're in the phase called CalArts. This phase is marked by another period of rapid improvement. First of all, because it lasted 4 years, this phase of my life. And second of all, because there were teachers there to tell me what to do, to correct and critique me. And third, because there were students there who could also correct and critique me. It was just a bunch of people who were interested in what I'm interested in, who knew more about me in different ways, who were sitting there telling me, you should try this, you should do this instead. And also, they were all my age. It was young. It was a lot of energy. It was a lot of interest in the things that we all liked together. And you're paying a lot of money. That altogether creates an environment where you will rapidly improve. Another thing is, this is the first time in my life where I ended up not being an ideas guy. I learned how to finish something, and that's because it was required. Once a year at CalArts, you have to make an entire film. And I did do that. I didn't miss a single year. This is an OC of mine that I abandoned. His name is Mucus, but he would turn into a bunch of other OCs. He's cute. I like him. He looks great. Look at that smile. Another animation. This is good. This is when I started to take the basics of what they were teaching us in class and apply it to stuff that I actually wanted to make. That's cool. I should do more of these. Some life drawings. My life drawings got good. It was 6 hours a week. I developed a unique style. Remember I told you that ink would become part of my unique style? Here I am using ink. And these are big drawings too. I think they're 11 by 17 or something. Peach and Bowser, and are we surprised? Something I will note, she's yelling at him. He's not yelling back. I like the exaggeration. His legs are getting littler and littler. I think that's quite cute. The Baudelaire orphans from a series of unfortunate events. Biggest thing to note, the shoes are specific. I must have been studying shoes. Those are Tim's for sure. And then those are equestrian boots, which were in style at the time. Here are the twins, Duncan and Isadora, and here's the last time that I drew them. Something weird and funky's going on. Counter. Another comic of mine. This is cute and funny. I like it. My paneling has gotten simpler, and so has my drawing. This is a self-portrait from the end of my first year at CalArts. This is the first time I realized you can draw a background traditionally, scan it in, and animate on top of it. That feels like something obvious, but since I didn't come from an art background, I just did one lock-in year and then went to the best animation school of all time. There was a lot of catch-up that I had to do, a lot of things that were obvious to other students that I had never thought about in my life. But this is a good background, and it's a fun little animation. I like that. That's cute. I must have been sad. This is my grandma. So you remember I told you about the lock-in year where I moved in with her? She was getting old, and that inspired my second year film. This is beautiful. Look at that copper pot. Wow. In my second year of school, my art got a lot simpler. Look at this little amoeba galaxy. This is fucking great. I really like this. I would have this dance between simplicity and complexity for like my entire artistic career, including now. This is a good animation. This is a story I made up about 5 sisters, and one of them is a little bit different than the others. It's about wanting to be a mermaid and knowing that you can't and that you're not. This is a transgender allegory. These are 5 girls in my family. This one is me. And it's just a story about wanting it, but knowing that you can't have it. It was a good story. I never finished it. There was a lot of things in CalArts that I was experimenting with that I wouldn't finish because it felt too personal. Weird, because a lot of my work that came out of CalArts was very personal. Just this was too much. I love this. The design teacher that I had at the time didn't really love it. I think he was wrong. I fucking cut and print. I would watch a whole series of that. That's incredible to me. These are pirates. What can I say? I like pirates. I like this one. This is just a little animation that I made on a rainy day. California was in a 17-year drought. Those who grew up there knew. I didn't know what rain was for most of my adolescence. So this is a special drawing to me. Mark Twain and Ernest Hemingway. I got really into Mark Twain around this time. Another comic. This is me experimenting with sentimentality. I would start to get good at it around this time. After 3 years at school, the Baudelaires, that same series of unfortunate events. This is looking really good. It's much more simple, but I don't mind that. One thing I'll point out, he's holding the book a lot more convincingly than the last one that I showed you. My paintings, this is my secret talent. I really took to painting. I got it really quick. I had a couple of friends who were in the class with me who were painters, and they were like, dude, you need to be doing this for real. I used a palette knife here to get that chunky texture. I was really good at this. These are 3-hour sits. And I would only stay for the 3 hours. There was an optional 6, but my oil paintings are great. This is oil. I should do more oil. That one's so good. This is, I think, the last in this section, and I picked it because it's really exemplary of how I came out of the school. So here's how I started, and here's how I ended. You see how I showed transparency here? This is all ink on a white background, and then this is just a little white pencil that I did on top of it. I love that. I think that's great. Now we're in the section called post-grad. Post-grad period of my life was after I graduated from CalArts, and I did tie for first in my senior year and got like a big award that one of my friends also got a big award on. But I didn't end up getting a job for a year and a half after graduating school, and not for lack of trying. I applied to 300 or something jobs. So this period in my life is another lock-in period. The first time that I did this, quantity made quality. So I was just trying to put as much out there as I could with the express goal of getting a job. So everything that I did in this period was to try and get a job. First of all, Betty is now a person of color, finally. From this point on, I would just be trying to insert people of color into my work as much as I could. Anytime that they don't explicitly say this person's white, I would just be like, okay, so they're brown. This is another Jughead Betty. There's a lot of romantic tension there that I invented myself, that I heard they put into the show Riverdale. Here are my Archie comics. This was a little comfort fandom of mine. Anytime that I would feel stressed, I would just draw Archie. This comic is good. I like this comic. The one thing I'll point out, look at this arm. Hello? So it wasn't perfect. I also, I wanted the head to be over here, ended up drawing it over here. This is another good comic. I think this one deserves a queer counter. I think this is where I would develop my personal style of ending the comic with a big zoomed out conclusion. I was reading a lot of One Piece at the time because I thought it would improve my perspective, and it did. Self-insert drawings. This is when I opened my Patreon. So these are some of my first Patreon drawings. I was working with pen and pencil on traditional art, trying to do studies. My hatching is really not good. This is pencil. I didn't understand how to carve out a form. I still kind of don't. A lot of really scratchy stuff here. This is not technically good, but I don't mind it. It's me and my partner on Halloween. Duncan and Isadora Quagmire. Can we get the other two? Correct. Queer counter. Thank you. This is a painting of Julian Baker. I include this one again to show that I don't really think this is good, and I knew at the time that it wasn't good. The things that I like about it, I like the rim lighting catching the hair, and I like generally this weirdy background. I like that I added all of these individual strands of hair, but everything in here I think looks somewhat off. Likeness not necessarily captured, but that's okay. It was an attempt. You should try things. Another self-portrait, this time in pencil. Fine. Now this is a good one. I think I must have been studying J.C. Leyendecker at this time. This is good. Does it look particularly like me? No, but I don't think that was the point of the study. Look at that background. I like this. This is definitely Leyendecker. Here's when I left LA. I couldn't afford it anymore. I didn't have a job. Now, when I moved out to the East Coast, I finally decided to start an ongoing webcomic. Remember, I had been influenced by webcomics since the early 2000s when I was reading them online on my favorites. Now, I had never done one consecutively over time. I had experimented with short forms here and there, but with the confidence that I built from finishing projects at CalArts, I felt like I was finally ready. So at this point, I started a spooky horror RPG comic called You Are Jeb, where you play as a ghost inside of a Ouija board planchette that the main character carries around. He takes it out and asks the audience, what should I do? The audience comments in on Instagram and tells him, and then he does whatever the audience decides that he should do. That comic would go on for 3 or 4 years, for like the entirety of my run at Disney until my workload there got too high. But that webcomic was one of the deciding factors that got me into Walt Disney Animation Studios. So after living on the East Coast for like 4 months, they called me up and we began the next phase of my artistic journey, which is called employment. Finally, I had a job. I worked at Walt Disney Animation Studios for a few years, but I can't show you any of the art because if you don't know or haven't worked in a studio, when you sign up, you sign a contract that says that any of the art that you create under the roof or while you are in company hours belongs to Walt Disney Animation Studios. But I will tell you, while I was there, they gave me a little notebook that said Disney on it. And in that notebook, I ended up filling it not with Disney art, but with my OCs. Don't fucking tell them I did this. So, for the whole time that I was there, this is right before COVID, the whole time I was there, I would go to a little closed off area at lunch break and just dream up OCs and OC situations. And that led to me turning it into a webcomic. So while I was at Disney, I started this webcomic called Eleanor Devin. You remember those characters that I showed you way back in the beginning? This is them again. I just redesigned them and started posting them. And this was like, I spent all of my free time on this. I set the comic in San Francisco, which is where I was born and raised, and something in my brain started being like, you should go back. So shortly after I did all of this, I did move back to San Francisco. Here's when I switched to Clip Studio Paint from Procreate and Photoshop, and Clip Studio Paint was just infinitely better. The paneling was easier. I didn't have to hand letter shit anymore. When I was dreaming about moving to San Francisco, I was heavily inspired by Princess Diaries and the school uniforms in Catholic school, all of those things that I had lived. Here's another little self-portrait of me. I moved back to San Francisco part of the way through COVID in I think November 2020, and I just started going full in on this comic. I was still employed full-time, but damn, I just wanted to do this. I was thinking about time skips. I was redesigning all the characters, putting new stuff in it. I launched the first couple of pages of my webtoon. I was hoping to become a webtoon sponsored creator because they were doing that at this time. The world building kept growing beyond the bounds of my imagination. Here's the main character's parents. This is her little brother. She got a brother out of nowhere. This character ended up being secretly gay. This one is trans, this one is asexual, this one is a lesbian, and this one, who knows what's going on. Now, I did notice that as I started to pour more and more time, energy, and attention into this world, my Patreon was popping off. People were following me on different social media platforms, my webtoon was growing, and I ended up quitting my job. I quit Disney. This is when I first became an independent animator. Was it scary? Extremely. Was I terrified that I was making the wrong decision? Yes, but I didn't in the end. It ended up being just fine. Something I have to tell you about working at Disney or working in any studio is that they had told us in school that you learn more on the job than you do in school. I don't think that's necessarily true. I just think you learn in a more specific way when you're on the job, because when you're on the job, you're expected to rise to the occasion of the job that you were hired for. I personally was hired as a storyboard artist, which meant that I had to learn perspective, emotion, timing, composition, lighting, expression. I had to learn all of these tools that a storyboard artist uses to make effective storyboards. And I had to learn them quick because as a storyboard artist, you get a couple sequences per month, and every sequence takes between 150 and 500 images to draw, and you're constantly throwing them out. None of those images make it into the movie, and you do up to 5 or 6 passes on one sequence before the director approves it. So that's a ton of drawings that you're constantly putting out. And I started in the apprentice program where they specifically trained me on things like expression and perspective so that I could be caught up to the place that I needed to be a successful storyboard artist at the studio. That all improved my art at an exponential rate. 500 drawings a week will do that to you. And I had bosses that were kind enough to take me into one-on-one rooms and redline my work for me and show me what I was doing wrong. It was a great period of my life. But I did quit. Was it terrifying? Yes. Was it the right decision? Also yes. So after Disney, we move into a period called independence. And this is when I started to go full in on my comic. And again, this is a really prolific period of art making for me. And the reason for that is because I loved what I was doing so much. Turns out when you love what you're doing, you tend to do it a lot. This period, independence, lasted for about 3 years until about 2023. I was just making art for my comic. And it was crazy because, first of all, where's her hand? The crazy thing too is that I was putting out about 21 pages per week colored for my webtoon. And I also was finding time to do all of this work for my Patreon. I just really loved it. This is all I did. Again, morning till night, 18 hours a day, all I was doing was drawing for my comic. Now, big thing that happened here was that I realized I was really behind on faces. My faces were really flat and kind of swam in the skull a lot, and that's because I didn't ever learn forms and shapes. I didn't study balls, I didn't study cubes, I didn't study prisms or anything like that, so I had to really drill it on my own. So some of these faces, like this one, I think were really messed up. These two are twins. I do like this outline thing that I was doing for a little while. I think it's really cute. I like my art from this point. I think it's really cute. I started experimenting again with really pared down simplicity. There were ravens that lived outside my apartment in San Francisco and I would feed them. More stuff for my comic. I got some Copic markers and started drawing in my sketchbook again. Here I am drilling those faces, really trying to get it down. And this is the point where I actually did start to get it down. Now again, I was drawing all the time. There's a lot of failed drawings that I didn't show you. But here's the first really solid face where I felt really good about it. More paneling experiments. I'll put up the last comic I did with these two characters. Also had hand-drawn panels, so you can see the difference between, 5 years of progress? Little studies that I could do for my comic. I felt good about this face. And this one too. These are those two parent characters that I showed you. This I could only do because I had spent time as a storyboard artist. This one I show you just to show you that I wasn't good all the time yet. Look how far back that neck is. And that arm, something's off about the length of this arm. The profiles are slightly off. I'm just showing you not everything was gravy. This arm is also way too long. This is good. I like this. It might not be correct anatomically, but it's cute. Here's another really long arm. Look, if she puts her elbow down, her elbow's at her hip. That's not right. This is the thumbnail of the comic. It's cute. I'll link it below if you want to read it. There's 45 episodes. I'm hoping to get back into it soon, but I have been on hiatus for a few years. This is a flash sheet that I did in the style of one of the characters in the comic, who is a tattoo artist. He has 2 dads, so that's cute. I like this. I still really like this. That's really good. Anatomy is good. Solid. At this point, I was just doing studies and I was just happy. I moisturized it in my lane. I was just really happy. I was really happy about the work I was making. I was getting into color here, doing more color studies. Here's a face that I was really happy with, and that same character, Bolt, that I've been showing you throughout. He's the tattoo artist. I was really proud of these. I feel like I'm solid on faces now. I never struggle with them anymore. This was the end of 2022, I think. Here's me experimenting with simplifying those faces down while keeping the specifics of a face, which I think I was successful at. This comic is really funny. It's from my Not Safe for Work tier on Patreon. That tier, just so you know, never has anything explicit in it. It's just humorous situations like this with kind of like adult themes, but never anything explicit. They are funny. This is some studies that I did. Really big tip for you, golden tip. Do studies with your OCs in it, or if you mostly do fan art, do studies with your favorite characters in it, because again, you'll do more if you like what you're doing. One of the last drawings of this character before I stopped doing the comic. I was working on Ghibli tiers. I didn't succeed at this point. I'm still working on them. Remember I told you I never wanted to do backgrounds. I didn't like doing them. I did try to learn them. I did learn perspective so that I could do a better job at my comic. Because when you love something, you will work hard at that thing. When you don't love it, you probably will just want to stop at the end of the day. But me, I never wanted to stop. Some more paneling. This is good paneling. I was experimenting with copying manga style paneling and I like it. I think if I end up restarting the comic, I'll do it like this. Here I was trying to pare down my coloring to give it more of a watercolor look that would be easier to continue on with. These two are the last pages that I did in my sketchbook before something happened that set me back in my art for a while. So we're moving into the next period, which is called Starting Again. Starting Again begins with a neurological event that happened to me that caused my art to regress. Essentially what happened was that my art regressed, became really simple, and I had to fight for a long time to get it back up to where it had been. Here's some of me fighting. I chronicled this period on my Patreon, but basically it was just a long time of me trying to fight through this weird thing. It made sense, but it wasn't fun. The thing that helped the most, honestly, was starting Twitch. I started Twitch in, I think, April of 2024, and I just used it to show up and do studies and just doodle with an audience. And we built, I think, a small Twitch following of like maybe 1,000 people. And through showing up every week, a couple times a week, I was able to get my art back up to where it had been. These are all self-portraits. It started with studies because when in doubt, just do studies. At least you're getting your pen to the paper. And after a while, it started to come back, like really scratchy at first. But eventually, yeah, I had it. And something cool that I did gain from that period was the ability to intentionally simplify. Here's another comic. It feels stiff to me, but I think that's because I'm looking for it. But this is what I mean about intentionally simplifying. That's really good. I started a skateboarding class, started taking pole class again, started doing stuff to like get my mind into weird places to try and make new neural connections, and that really helped. This comic I really like. I like the weird panels that I did. And so after that, I started getting back into color studies. This is what I mean by put your OCs and stuff. That's Eleanor and that's Devin. Eleanor, Bolt, Eleanor. Put your OCs and stuff, because it'll force you to do more studies. Then I made this character called Basil the Little Demon. You probably have run into him if you're an animation fan and you're on Instagram, because he's got millions and millions of views on there. I did 2 series of Basil the Little Demon, season 1 and season 2, which is still in progress. But this is what I'm talking about when I said intentional simplifying. Somehow I was able to land on this style that was childish while also being a little bit scary, which is exactly what this particular animated series needed. When I finished Basil season 1, I just got really into drawing myself and Brazilian Miku. I also drew Brazilian Knuckles the Echidna. Here he is. Draw whatever you want. You're a god. Here's some little memoir comics that I was doing throughout this period. It's good. It's intentionally simple. I can see the One Piece influence. And then I just started making comics about my life, starting really small at first and then building up. These are all good comics. At this point, I realized I had definitely solved the funny. I could do the funny easily. I also can do the sentimental really easily too, but that stuff is all on my Patreon. Here are just some examples of the type of work I was making at this time. This is last year, like 2024, 2025. This is a comic that I made that people really liked, about a little redhead girl that I left behind the last time I got blackout drunk in my late teens. Here's some more of the mini comics on my Patreon page. I started doing lighting studies in planes of the face. Finally, here's my little guy. His name is Milong. He's become a good friend. I had wanted a planer head forever. Thank God for 3D printing, because they used to be like $150. Some lighting studies. And that brings us to today. Here is the very first TV show I ever pitched. I haven't heard back yet, but I was specifically asked to pitch this show. So I think that's a really big win already. If you're interested in what the show is about that I pitched, it's basically just the same stories that I always tell, which is young queer kids who are punks and kind of misfits. You can see that, I think, as a theme all the way back in middle school. It's just kind of the stuff that I make. It's kind of the life that I live. So this is $4. Here are the characters: Mitchell, Paige, Davy, and Gage. You will notice it's these exact characters that I made a comic about last year. Make a lot of work, finish your stuff. It leads to things that you never would have expected it leading to. This is my first TV show pitch. I'm hoping to do more of today. What I've been working on really as I'm moving out of this weird burnout phase that I was in, because I did burn out while making Basil the Little Demon. Who would have expected that when you try and make a TV show in 4 months from start to finish, and you just keep making it increasingly hard for yourself with increasingly tight deadlines and increasingly long episodes, you burn out at the end of that process? Who would have ever predicted that? Literally anybody, but it's okay. I'm learning. And I am hoping to finish up this series hopefully by middle of the year, by June or something like that. I'm really hoping. I have faith in myself. I did burn out, and I've been trying to come back from that burnout, but that's okay. It's part of the cycle of being an artist. Here's a drawing of me. Here's another drawing of me. Once again, when in doubt, do studies, because at least you're putting your pen to the paper. And then here's a comic that I did really recently. Now, what sticks out to me about this comic is the colors are beautiful, the drawings are really simple, but I treat the simple drawings as if they are fine art. And I like that. I also stopped drawing in my own word bubbles and experimented with using a font instead. I don't know how I feel about it. And here's the most recent comic I did. Inside of me, there are 2 cans of Monster. You can pause and read it if you want to. If you don't want to, you can follow my Instagram. That's where all of my comics are. And that's it. We finished. That's the end of my little art retrospective. So as a conclusion, here are the things that I wanted to tell you. Am I on the right track? Will I ever be as good as you? Is it possible that I can make it too? And I told you that the answer to those questions are yes, yes, and yes. And I hope that my art proved it. But if it didn't, then let me tell you a story. When I was about 18, prior to the Great Lock-In, when I was still in university and not good enough to make art my full-time life career, there was an artist that I looked up to, and I thought he was a god. He was the best artist that I had ever seen in my life. I lost track of him, and I went through this whole process. A couple of years ago, I found his art again, and guess what? It's not that good. I'm better than him. Oftentimes, people will say to you, stay in your lane, but they don't tell you why. So I'm going to tell you why. If you and I are running in a race on a track, and you see my lane, and you think to yourself, that looks really good, that looks like a good way to get to my goals, and you pop in on my lane, you will always be running behind me, no matter how fast you go. You can't get in front of me. If you were to stay in your lane, and we both run, and you keep your head down, you will beat me. It's not about how much better you are than me, it's about how much better you are than you. So, eyes on your paper, do the work directly in front of you to the best of your ability, and one day you'll wake up and find that you've beaten your gods. So are you on the right track? Yes. Will you ever be as good as me? It's guaranteed. And is it possible that you can make it too? My friend, you will make it too, as long as you don't give up. Until death, all defeat is psychological. So until then, I'll see you out there. Bye.